What are you interested in right now?
I'm interested in growing the game of hockey. That's what I'm interested in that, and I've been reinvigorated in the comic book space. So thank God I'm getting a paycheck every week.
All right. All right, we're going to take a little break here. I want to tell you about something pretty amazing that we stumbled upon. A little ways back, we interviewed this amazing dude, Kwame Bowen, and he shared with me after the episode that his mother is a poet. And what's awesome about that is that he has all of her writings and all her poems, but what he doesn't have is her reading them. That inspired Keith and I to then start recording videos for our daughters.
And as we started recording those videos, we started running into the challenges of where are we going to send them to our daughters? How are we going to get them to them? Where are we going to save them? Is it going to be Google Drive? Is it going to be OneDrive? And then along came GiftPod. It's an audio memory that you can record and give as a private podcast. What they're going to do is edit, add music, and produce the audio that you provide them into a professional podcast that you can share with your family members for any purpose. We use it for our daughters in the future.
All right, so check it out. In the write up for this podcast, you're going to see a link to GiftPod. If you use promo code MIC10, you're going to get a discount. And leave some amazing memories for your friends, family, loved ones, maybe for yourself. Why don't you time capsule this for yourself? I don't know.
So check them out.
Giveagiftpod.com.
MIC10 promo.
Kwame, welcome to the show, my man. Thanks for joining us.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. This is dope.
Happy
jumping on.
American Black History Month, my man.
It's World Black History Month, homie. That's the world. Black History Month ain't just for one spot. It's all over.
That's
world.
fair. I like it.
Yeah.
Happy World Black History Month.
Dig it.
It's February. It's important. It's good, and we're excited to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Now, to start this conversation, because this is something I think about all too often, but it's based on an interview you had back in 2015, right after the release of Soul on Ice.
Okay.
You mentioned that you don't think the underreporting of the Colored Hockey League is necessarily due to racism.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that because the word racism is a very powerful word and we should be careful how we use it. And I happen to very much agree, as I think we need to be better using our words between bigotry, prejudice, racism.
Yes.
Because it becomes counterproductive, right? To eliminating racist institutions if we just say everything and everyone is racist.
Yeah.
And then people get on the defensive. So 5 years anniversary of the documentary, of that interview, do you still consider it to be the case with the use of the word racist? Yeah.
Yeah, I totally do, because I think what it is, when it came to speaking about or promoting or celebrating the history and the contributions of Black athletes in hockey, you're dealing with an industry that for how many years the industry has been predominantly white. So for them to now talk about something that's not in their household, like, I just don't believe that the industry ever really cared about anything else but what they were doing. So we're going to talk about Boom Boom Jeffrion. We're going to talk about Jean Plante. We're going to talk about Wayne Gretzky. We're going to talk about this. This is what we're talking about. All that other stuff, that's going to take extra effort for me to now go and learn about something that isn't a part of my day-to-day. Like, why would I do that? And that's not right, but I'm just saying, like, for them in that time, it was no interest in them. So I don't think they were just trying to be like trying to hold the brothers down. It was just like, yo, we don't care about the brothers. We just doing us. And so it's a shame, because if they did do that when they had the chance to, the game of hockey, you wouldn't have that mention of the game of hockey being number 4. Like, you can debate the top 3 sports in America. You could debate it. It could be either basketball, baseball, football. You could debate which one's number 1. Number 4 is not debatable. It could be debated. It could be debated now to say, is it 4 or is it 5? Is it as soccer overcame hockey? Is it? But for years, hockey stayed at number 4 and it was there. And the only reason why it was there is because the game didn't grow to minority communities. That's a fact. That's just a fact. Like, I mean, there's nobody to debate. I would debate that with anybody. I'd be like, yo, why are you number 4? Don't tell me because America don't got ice and this part. Like, there's so many, like, that's just excuses. It's like the excuse of saying, you know, black people don't play hockey because it's too cold or the ankles are too small. I'm like, don't make excuses for something that's just, you know, and nobody's mad at you. If you want to be number 4, be number 4, but don't say it's number 4 because of America. No, it's because you didn't popularize the game to minorities. Basketball is popularized by everybody, every community. Baseball is popularized in every community. Football, every community. Hockey, you know, is it surprising that the one game that is the one not most popular, is not a very popular sport, is the one sport that did not traditionally promote itself to minority communities? It's not coincidental that it's number 4. So that's on you. You know what I mean? To me, the industry, I'm not arguing with you about that. That's on you. But if you want to step up your game, you're going to have to promote it to minority communities. And that's why I said, like, yo, I don't think you were trying to be racist about it. I just thought you were just trying to be like, well, I don't care about that. It's got nothing to do with me.
It's interesting. 2 of the games that aren't the biggest, soccer and hockey, have, I'm trying to think growing up. Yeah.
I was going to say,
in the U.S.
In the U.S. Okay, good.
Yeah, in the U.S. for sure. And it's growing. It's growing for sure.
Yeah.
Here, I remember growing up soccer, I was good, but when I got invited to play on travel teams, couldn't afford it. Like, it was very expensive. And like to be on travel teams was the only way to get seen and actually like really grow. Like, the local team was nothing. Hockey, I'm guessing actually I'm not even guessing because Sol and I talk about it. The cost, like when you walk in, you gotta get your pads, you gotta get your equipment, you gotta get ice time. But then at the same time, football is not cheap. Like, you gotta get all your pads. So I wonder if there's a cost component, but I think it's more about, like what you said, it's not promoted to certain groups, which may be results of racism, results of institutions.
It's a very expensive sport. No one's going to deny that. But I think predominantly, like a football and baseball, soccer, like, you know, there is going to be a cost involved some way, shape, or form. And I think that's the easiest thing to direct the lack of participation of minorities in the game of hockey is by saying it's too expensive. It's too expensive. And it is true, but by saying that, you're also saying that they're Black and Hispanic and Asian people don't have money. Like, none of them have, none of us got money.
So would you?
Well, I just, something I learned yesterday, the median income in this country of a white family is $171,000.
Medium net worth. Median net worth.
Yeah,
not income.
You want to guess what it is for a Black family?
30 something.
17.
17,000.
17,000
net worth.
10 times. 10 times. It's a huge problem.
And I think, and that's just net worth. I think the average savings for a Black family in America is less than $100 or something like that.
Well, it's got to be. I mean, yeah. How are you gonna save $17,000? How are you gonna save $17,000?
Yeah, you ain't saving. Yeah. So yes. So in that respect, you know what I mean. Like, there is, that cost factor in hockey has always been there, and no one's denying that. I don't think, But again, there are still, even though the average Black family's income may be that low, there are still above average people.
Mm-hmm.
So what were they doing?
Absolutely.
Like, what were they doing?
So would you? So I kind of want to unpack this a little bit, especially as we talk about the words. There is clearly prejudice that plays into the mindset of people that says, yeah, Black people don't play hockey, because until I read about you, I never heard the small ankles thing before.
Yeah.
Can't believe that's a thing. But certainly, Black people don't like colds, don't like ice. Like, that's clearly why. So that prejudice, that, to your point, isn't necessarily racism. But would you say that in the early days, hockey was exclusionary, but today it's not necessarily that hockey isn't excluding Black people from hockey, though fans might have a different take on it. If you ever, I mean, I know you've probably talked to PK Subban, but especially when he goes and plays in Boston. The reality is, unlike football, which has promoted football to all demographics and economic levels and made it available in high schools where you can get equipment and you can do all this stuff. Ice time, high school availability. It is an elitist sport. Therefore, it's just not promoting itself. And I'm not meaning to call hockey elitist, but it's just not promoting itself to everybody. Therefore, it's excluding, but it's not necessarily doing it with racial intent, at least in the modern day.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think that most industries have a community, and hockey has a community, and that community has gone on for generation to generation. And for people of color, you may come in, you may come out, but you don't have that huge group that through generation and generation become and grow bigger and bigger. So it looks to be very elitist, or this group, and you got to think of your communities.
Inaccessible, maybe.
Yeah.
Inaccessible.
Yeah, and then you got to think of ice rinks and where they are, especially in the United States. Like, I mean, Canada, there's like 5 minutes from here is an ice rink.
Right.
If I want to go half an hour, I can go and find an ice rink for half an hour. If I want to go an hour, I can find an ice rink. But if I want to go 10 minutes to find an ice rink, I can find an ice rink. And that's in the major city. Like in New York, you can't do that. Like in New York, of all places, come on. There should be ice rinks all over the place. But there's not, So yeah, and again, I think for America, hockey's never been our priority as far as participation goes in fitness and all that. No one really thinks of skating as a way of getting fit. Soccer, you go play soccer in the park. Yeah, you run around with the guys, you get fit. Basketball, you go out there, you get fit. You go jogging. Play some football on the weekend. Throw the baseball. But no one thinks about going on the ice and skating around as a form of physical activity, And so, but here in Canada, you talk about that as physical activity. So, we've invested in it a little bit more. So now when it comes to in Canada, I mean, Canada, we have no excuse why more minority kids should be playing the game. We have no excuse because it's all over. It always just goes, to me, back to the idea of promotion and what you see. So when you go to these local rinks, like you're not seeing, it's not a very diverse looking, So if you're a Black parent and you want to put your kid in, you got to get over that hump. That's the one hump you have to go through first. When you walk into that room, it's like, I got my kid, and my kid he's 3.5. He's almost 3.5. And I know for the first little while, whenever I go take him skating, I'm not seeing more Black families that I could just give the Black head nod to. I got to see everybody else, and I got to be like, hey, and do it that way. but in the back of my mind thinking like, damn, like I can't be the only black person with a 3-year-old that's out here trying to get this kid on. I just can't be. You know, what's everybody else doing? What are you guys doing? What are you doing in the winter? Like, you know, especially during COVID, like, come on, man. So if it's like that here in Canada, I can't imagine what it's going to be like in the States.
Oh, like
Sidebar. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'm taking my daughter ice skating tomorrow for the first time.
Dope.
And how's your kid doing with it?
He's a monster.
Yeah,
he's a monster.
That's awesome.
I'll send you a video.
Wait.
He's a monster.
Oh, I love it. I'm so excited. Yeah.
So one of the most exciting things, like I mean, as a father, as a person who loves hockey and skating and stuff like that, you know, I don't even remember the first time I really got the idea of skating. Like I must have been like, man, like 8 or 9 or something like that. My guy's 3. He just started skating in October.
Oh yeah.
And he goes like he's not he's having a good time. So to me, if I just keep that up with him, then you know that's gonna be just second nature to him, and that's all I want it to be.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Sorry, I
not
it's top of mind on me.
That's dope.
I mean, you kind of answered. I was thinking like, how'd you get into it? You said 8 or 9, so same thing. Like, fast forward to your son. He's the only black kid out there on ice frequently. You had the same experience. What got you into it though? Like, where'd you get the idea
of hockey?
I mean, I guess it's all around, right? You can't.
I mean, like,
can you avoid hockey in Canada?
Yeah, you can't really avoid it. There's not somebody. It'd be crazy to find somebody that says, what's that? Like, you can never get that here, you know? So for me, it's just like, before I remember myself, I had a hockey stick in my hand. You know what I mean? I got baby pictures with me and I'm like, I don't remember that. You know, it's just the Canadian thing. I always say, you know, if you're an immigrant to Canada, as soon as you get in, as soon as you get your passport, you get your hockey stick. I say when you're born, you know, they don't give you a soother, they give you a hockey stick. Like, we just what it is. And then the neighborhood that I grew up in, like, you know, these are the days when you could go out in the streets and play till sun up till sundown. And it's like, if you got a neighborhood full of kids in the winter, they're gonna be playing road hockey. And that's how we did it. Like, we just played road hockey every day as much as possible. And then, you know, I didn't get the, you know, it's not until I moved this one neighborhood and the ice rink, right, you know, like I got our first pair of skates and, you know, they were crappy. But, you know, when I first got my first pair of hockey skates, you know, I don't even remember how I learned. I just went out there and just figured it out, you know, and we'd have the little basketball courts that when it iced over, we'd make it into a hockey rink, and we just go out there and you bring your gloves and bring your hockey sticks, and you just go out there and play shinny hockey. And then class, you know, you had skate days. Everybody gets their skates, you go in, like, so, you know, you just my public school, right, like literally over the hill, like you walk 2 minutes, there's a skate. The Fenside Public School, Fenside Arena. You would, you know, and every week it's just like skating.
So this is fascinating to me. So I'm just like trying to figure out the barrier. You mentioned one thing, like you can't see it. Like, if you're a black parent, you take your kid, like there's no other black kids there. So that's a barrier. It's hard to be what you can't see. Some people say it's like, so that's a barrier. But like, are there any other harder barriers? Or on the other side of that, are the white families pushing back? Like, you don't play hockey.
I don't think it's a barrier. It's not a sense that it's a barrier. It's a okay, well, you know, I'm just here, you know, and I don't see anybody else that another parent I can communicate with the way I want to. And I don't think that has to be a problem, but, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just want to be around people that look like you. I'd love for my kid to see kids that look like him skate. Because you know what I mean? Like, I don't want him to grow up and have that mindset that he's the only one that does that. And if he has other black friends, it's just like, he's like, oh, you guys don't do this, but this is what I do. And, you know, and I want him to just have a very nice multicultural group of friends that skate. And I'd like to be like, my son is a kid who likes to watch other people do things and then mimic it or he's attracted to it. So, he used to skate with a red bar. And he just had a fear. He just wouldn't let it go, but he was fat. Like he could just whip on that thing. And I'd be like, yo, you gotta let that go. And he wouldn't let it go. And there's this other little white kid around his same age. He was just whipping around. And he was just like, yo, and they became little buddies. He got rid of his barn. And you know what I mean? And so then he started skating. So I would love to see that with another black kid. You know what I mean? And you just don't see it. So I don't know if it's a barrier. It's just one of those things it just sucks. It just sucks.
What kept you into it?
Hockey?
Yeah.
God, you know what? I played soccer for 14 years, and I was a very aggressive athlete. So hockey is that aggression that I always loved. I stopped watching hockey for not say stopped watching it, but it wasn't on the brain like it is now. I stopped for a while. And I think the reason why I stopped for a while is because, again, I was, as a young man trying to find myself, I was very pro-black in what we, hip hop, breakdancing, rapping, all that stuff that, was, as a young man, you're discovering about yourself and reading about Malcolm and Martin and all that stuff. And this hockey just never, it just never had, there was nothing there for me. So I'd still watch it, but I was just like, let me just watch some basketball because I see some flavor there and I'm trying to see myself. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older and I remember watching Jerome McGillna play for the first time in like Calgary. And there's another black guy playing and he was so good. And then I just snapped in my head. It's just like, forget putting yourself in this box. Like you know what? Yeah, it sucks that not a lot of black people, I don't see a lot of black people, but I like the sport, so I don't care. And I'm just going to get back into it. So I think for me, it was just, it's the greatest sport, man. Like there's like when it comes to athleticism, everybody's, you could debate that. Obviously, everybody's going to have their thing, but man, there ain't nothing like having someone go, like 30 miles an hour on 2-inch blades with a hockey stick and a little puck. Like, yo, that is, if you ever watch Connor McDavid go at full speed, that's the most beautiful thing to ever see, It
is one of the most wonderful sports to watch. And I watch it every chance I can. I grew up with it. I grew up a Bruins fan and still am. I'd say it's my number 3 sport, but yeah.
Your point about athletics too, like just the line changes happening, real fluid in the game because people like those
skate chasing a puck at full speed for a minute and a half at a time.
It's wild.
Minute and a half. You're probably if you're out there a minute and a half going full tilt, you're sucking air.
Yeah. So
I want to ask a question real quick. Hold on. I want to because you. It's weird. So you were into it.
Yeah.
Then you got into this like real pro-black phase. Didn't see it. Back to that whole you're not seeing yourself in it, and then came back. You're like, nah, forget that. Where did you come up? When did you come up with the idea to make Soul on Ice?
2005. I moved out to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. For those who don't know, and I was a radio announcer. I was in a radio announcer my whole career was about 14 years in radio. So I moved out there for a radio job. And if anybody knows Edmonton, like that's a hockey town. I would equate that if you have listeners in Minnesota, it's like that. Like it's just hockey. Actually, Minnesota is probably even deeper than that because it's a much bigger place. But as far as the love for the game, Edmonton is just crazy about it. So I do this radio show there, and one of the first people I meet out there is George Laraque. George Laraque was one of the toughest enforcers in all of NHL, black guy. Him and I became friends. He would do little spots on my radio show, and then I became friends with Raffi Torres and Jared Stoll, and I'd be hosting parties at clubs and stuff like that. Those guys would come and hang out. And they would come by the show. And the one thing I realized about, and I learned That's like first time I ever had really real interaction with hockey players in all my life, pro hockey players. And in Toronto, when I was working in radio and I would do the clubs things, you'd have the Raptors. This is when the Raptors are first bubbling in Toronto, and they'd be in the clubs. And you go and approach a basketball player, they got the VIP up. You can't talk to them. They're like, yo, they're awesome. I can't talk to you. You go to a hockey player, hey, what's going on, man? Come on, let's have a beer, let's hang out, blah, 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 blah. And they were people persons. And I love that about them. And then now I'm going in and I'm watching these games. I'm just like, oh, snap. This game is insane live, like the energy. And then I would look at George and I would think to myself, man, it's too bad he didn't have a couple other brothers that were playing with him, and they should. And I would think about what if LeBron James's parents put him on the ice? What if Shaquille O'Neal's parents put him on the ice, or Kobe Bryant's parents put him on the ice? And I'd just be thinking like that. And then I'd go home and I'd start Googling black hockey players, and I'd learn a little bit more. And then I learned about the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes in 1895 to around 1925, 1930. And that blew me away, man, because here I am, a hockey fan living in Canada, the home of hockey, and nobody, no sports, no newspaper. Nobody talked about this hockey league that was around. I heard about the Negro Baseball League, and that wasn't even a Canadian thing.
Right.
That's an American thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd think the home of hockey would talk about this league of all black players in the 1800s. And so when I thought, I'm such a nerd with hockey. If I don't know about this, how many people don't know about that?
Mm.
And I've always been into film. And I always knew that one day I would make a film or do something. So in 2005, I just kind of stored all this information and thought to myself, this might be a really cool idea to make a documentary about blacks in hockey. At that time, I didn't know what it would be, but I knew that's something I wanted to do. And so I just started gathering information. And that's kind of where I came up with the idea to do a documentary about the history of black athletes in hockey.
So
it's a great story.
That is an awesome story. And I'm curious, because reputationally as a whole, in America in particular, it's not a sport that embraces the black athlete.
Right.
And
the character of the black athlete, not the black athlete. It doesn't like the style, the swagger, that energy of black athletes. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, you're right.
And you end up seeing, that's PK, right? And you end up seeing the resistance show up in the form of prejudices and bigotry from fan perspective.
Which we're quick. That happens in football too. Like think about like Terrell Owens,
Oh,
like
it totally
big,
happens
real
in
big
football.
personalities. Like they're not professional. Like not a professional entertainer. Like there's this the swagger is allowed to a point, but then it's like capped and it's like penalized.
But and it's true, and this I think kind of speaks to that wanting to be around people that you can talk to, because when 72% of the athletes in football are black, like even if the fans are whatever they are to you, you kind of feel protected in a way, right? But if you're the only one, like that's a whole different mentality and mindset. How have you seen especially through the documentary, and we see these schools and leagues for the black athlete in hockey show up to promote in these communities, regardless of income level? How have you seen that shift or change? Do you see the black athlete being more embraced? Do you see it being more resisted, especially given the historical culture of the NHL being just what you said it was before? Just, this is who we are. This is what we do. Don't change it.
I think the industry has no choice but to embrace what's coming. It's very slow because it's a very traditional industry, so those over celebrations is not there yet, and you have predominantly white players, and if they're not doing it, you got one black guy or two black guys that are really doing it, they're going to stand out a lot. But at the same time, it's like, it's interesting because hockey doesn't like it, but they like it.
Yeah.
They love when Ovechkin scores a goal and he jumps up and he slams himself. They love that.
Mm-hmm.
The fans love that, you know?
Yeah.
And so that always kind of made me go, so why when PK does it, there's an issue? Why, you know,
I mean,
why is, yeah. I mean,
It
there's
like
a guy, Timo Solani, you know what he used to do when he scored a goal? He would throw his glove in the air, take
Mhm.
his stick like it's a rifle and duck shoot it. People love that. I mean, that
Mhm.
was, what was that, the 80s?
Mm.
And then so when, you know, so I don't know. I think it's one of those things again where it's just like, okay, if you want to be sticklers like that, that's fine. But you
so
know
I want
how
to
much
ask
more
you.
you would get, how much more energy you would get out of the fans if you let these guys just show the personality. And then another kind of, I would say, like theory on that. And to be honest, and it's no disrespect to the white athletes playing hockey, they don't got that swagger like black athletes. They just go in there, they just do their job, and then boom. Black athletes just, it's a dance, it's a flair. So, you know, their excitement and our excitement is two different things.
Two different
A
things.
cultural difference that they
Yeah.
just can't access. So
Yeah.
there's another part that I want to ask you about that exists in American football. I'm curious if this is part of this for hockey. There's this component of you're lucky to be doing this. You should be
Mhm.
happy you have this job.
Right.
So act like it's kind of the whole act like you've been there mentality. Like when you score a touchdown, just like do a sign of the cross and walk off, or
Hockey's like
whatever.
that too.
Be classy, right? Be
Mhm.
classy. Even though we're paying you to entertain us.
Yeah.
And when Gronkowski does a Gronk slam or celebrates, oh yeah, that's good old American fun. When
Mhm.
Terrell Owens slams a ball or signs a ball, oh no, he's crossed the line. He's eating popcorn.
Yeah.
Oh, he's showboating. That's just too
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
There's very Kaepernick is very much a you should be happy you get to play this game. There's very
Mhm.
much the undertone here. Do you feel that it has anything to do with it in hockey?
I'm sure, you know, and I think that's a lot of that underbelly of trying to tell people what they can and can't do.
Mm,
And they have that mindset to say, you make so much millions of dollars, you shouldn't be talking about nothing but what is expected of you. Or you shouldn't be acting out because, you know, you're disrespecting the game. And to me, that to me is more of a jealousy than more than anything else.
mm,
Because when you see somebody getting a lot of attention, there's just some human beings that just don't like to see that. And it's unfortunate because some of those people are those who are writing the checks, who are doing the announcing, that control a narrative. So, you know, best example for me is like this. When I was in radio and I knew I was done, like I was like, yo, Little Pump and all these, I'm like, yo, I'm from the era of Wu-Tang, Nas, that's my era. This is crap to me. But you know what? I had to realize, be like, yo, it may not be for me,
Right.
but I understand why somebody likes it, because when I was in certain part of my life, there was just something that when I heard it, man, get out of my way.
mm,
And some people didn't understand that. So for me, I'm like, hey, I might not be into that, but if there's a massive group that's into that, who am I to say anything? Allow them to have some enjoyment. So it's the same thing with sports and celebrations and how you kids. Yo, as long as they're not being disrespectful, and whatever disrespectful means, whatever, if they're not being disrespectful, who am I to tell you don't have fun playing a game? You're playing a game. Have fun. Get the, you know, it's sports is has always been entertainment. Vince McMahon has always had it right. It's sports entertainment. That's what it is. it's not. I tell our co-host on the podcast, Akil, that I'm like, yo, y'all can't be that. Yo, you here to entertain me. Let me have fun watching you. If you're there stiff and yeah, during the period we just dumped the puck in, and it's just we had to get our forecheck in there, and we tried to play hard, and we'll try and do it again and say, yeah, get off. Don't get off the mic. Don't talk to that guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear from that guy. Let me hear from that guy that's just sweating. He's like, yeah, it's crazy out there, man. Chara in the corners. This guy's trying to take my head off. But you know what? Our boys are playing tight. We got some. We're pressuring hard, and we coming for them in the second period. And if they want that smoke, they're gonna get that smoke. I want to. That's gonna get me. Let me get some fun out of this, man.
I think
the disrespectful thing is interesting because it's like it's a game where I'm trying to take your head off. I'm trying. I'm physically checking you.
We are literally enemies on the ice. Like
in all sports, are like that.
Yeah,
all sports.
When
the whistle's blowing and we're out, let's go have a beer. But when I used to play volleyball. I was aggressive in that. Calm down. I'm just like, nah.
This conversation, though, I think brings up to the point of the first question. Like this is the nuance of that conversation. Like these are all the prejudices that exist that prevent people from wanting to take part.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily leading to racist policies within the NHL. Maybe they are, and that can speak to the accessibility, which will lead to the question I have. But at the end of the day, it's like evaluate your prejudice. Like, how are you, not the two of you, but how are you evaluating when a black athlete is on the ice versus all of the other white athletes, or in any sport? You may be prejudiced. It's because that's just what we are as people. We have them. We're human. It's natural to have prejudices regardless of what they are. Sure. And are you bigoted about it? Like, do you hate them because of it? That's one thing. But then are you saying they shouldn't take part in it because of that? And there's your racism. So
that does exist. Don't get it twisted. That does exist in the industry of hockey, and it's always been there. And in situations, like you look at some of the guys that played, in the 40s and 50s that should have had shots in the NHL and just never had shots.
Yeah,
they just
right.
Their prejudice became racial in the sense that, like, I'm not going to give you the shot that I would give this person.
Yeah.
And to me, racism is about one part of racism is taking away opportunities from somebody just because they are a different color.
Yeah.
If because I'm black, you're not going to give me the same opportunity as that white guy, you're a racist. And that's happened in the game of hockey.
Yeah, and having the power to do that, exactly. Yeah.
Since
you and we're coming up on time, but since you released the documentary, do you see, and obviously not necessarily, there are other people that are involved in the exposure, the sport. Do you see it changing in America? Like, do you see it becoming more available and accessible in areas?
What I see right now with hockey since my films come out is the conversation is being had. So hockey is on the brain. People are like, oh yeah, I saw this movie about guys in hockey, or oh yeah, I've been hearing people talk about, I'm going to check this out. The conversation is being had right now. There is going to be steps to getting hockey to a point where it looks and feels like North America. That's going to be a very long time. The problem right now is that you've got a section of people that want to see change in hockey, but they expect it right now. Like all of a sudden, NHL is going to make changes and you're going to see more black people playing in the game of hockey. It's never going to happen, because at the end of the day, we want the best athletes on that squad. I don't want you to put a white guy on my team just because he's a white guy, but he can't skate. I don't want you to do it for the black guy. I want you to put the best player on the ice. So what this conversation where we're at right now is allowing people now to understand that there's more black athletes out there that are playing. So their awareness is up and their opportunities are going to be a lot more than it was, say, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Willie O'Ree broke into the league 1958. The next time they had a black player play in the NHL was 1974. Are you telling me that in 14 years there was no other black athlete that was good enough to play in the NHL? The reason why is because nobody was looking for them. Now the awareness is there, so you're not going to get into a position like that ever again. In my opinion, we'll go 2 steps back if in a draft year, not one person of color is drafted. Every year going forth, somebody of color should be drafted because there are good enough athletes out there. So it since the film's come out, I've seen this discussion change.
Awesome.
It very much reminds me of the conversation in employment. I mean, it's a very similar conversation and issues. I know we're coming up on time, but I want to ask, what are you working on today in hockey? Like, what's your?
So for me, besides still promoting the documentary, I've just been blessed that, I was able to create a film that is timeless. That message will always resonate, and it celebrates the history of our sport, the contribution of black athletes in the sport, and it shows what it can be and what it looks like. So I'm blessed in the sense that I've been able to continue to show the film. Like this month again, a lot of different places are playing it, and people are going to get to rediscover the film. And I'm a consultant with the National Hockey League right now, so I help them with any development in content or ideas going forward to help spread the game. Because of COVID, if COVID wasn't here, I'd be out there shooting different pieces of content for the NHL. That's what I was doing. So, roles kind of scaled back a little bit, but hopefully when we get back to, being out there with people, I'll get back into going out there and normalizing. Like my whole thing is to normalize black faces and voices in the game of hockey, and even minority faces and voices, not just black. Once we normalize that, that's what helps us grow the game. So another thing that I'm doing is the podcast Soul on Ice, the podcast. And it's myself, Akil Thomas, and Elijah Roberts. We just talk hockey from our perspective and just kind of give it a different type of flavor. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And I'm just hoping that I can continue to do that and continue to spread the word and, plant a seed, because, it's a movement, not a moment. And my job here is to help plant a seed that I may not see the full Douglas fern tree grow to its fullest capacity, but I know I was there dropping the seed at the very beginning.
That's awesome.
Well, we're gonna do what we can to help get the word out.
Sure.
The movie was emotional.
Movie's
for me,
dope.
And I told you it was a good story. I was halfway through it when we talked the first time, and then I finished it, and it was
and available on Amazon Prime for anybody listening. You can check it out.
Yes, it is.
Soul on Ice. That being said, with the last few minutes to make sure that we accommodate your time, we always have one final question.
All right.
And first, thank you for joining us and accepting this random invitation to talk to two guys.
Instagram. That's how Instagram works, right?
That's right.
You just discover things, and that's really cool.
Dope. So, but
last
Rodney,
question is, what do you want to leave everybody with? What do you want everybody to think about as a result of it?
I guess for me, it's control what you can control. Don't worry about things you can't control and what other people doing. Just control what's in front of you, and remember that this life, it ain't that serious, man. It really ain't that serious. We've had some troubling times in the last couple of years, and I don't know what anybody's politics are, and it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's just like your shirt says, just be a good person. Like, I don't know why that's so hard for us to do. And I mean, we all have bad days and stuff like that, but I think we can have ourselves a better world if we just kind of think about, what am I doing this for? And if your answer is, I'm doing this so that the kids coming after can be in a better place, then you're on the right track. But if you're just doing it for yourself and your ego, it's just like, I worry for you. So, I think I just leave people with that and the simple fact that I love this game of hockey, and I think that it could be for anybody if you want to explore it, and if you want to just give it a chance. I think you'd find the love just like I found the love in it. And don't let anybody tell you that hockey isn't for everyone, because it sure is. And don't let anybody put you in no box to say that you can't participate in this game because of X, Y, and Z. Let's go. Live games.